Oi, Frog by Kes Gray and Jim Field. Oi, Frog, sit on a log, said the cat. But I don't want to sit on a log, said the frog. Logs are all knobbly and uncomfortable, and they give you splinters in your bottom. I don't care, said the cat. You're a frog, so you must sit on a log. Can't I sit on a mat? Asked the frog. Only cats sit on mats, said the cat. What about a chair? Said the frog. I wouldn't mind sitting on a chair. Hares sit on chairs, said the cat. Perhaps I could sit on a stool, said the frog. Mules sit on stools, said the cat. What about a sofa? Said the frog. I could stretch right out on a sofa. Gophers sit on sofas, said the cat. It's very simple, really. Cats sit on mats, hares sit on chairs, mules sit on stools, gophers sit on sofas, and frogs sit on logs. What do lions sit on? Asked the frog. Lions sit on irons, said the cat. Ouch, said the frog. What do parrots sit on? Parrots sit on carrots, said the cat. Lions sit on irons and parrots sit on carrots. Doesn't sound very comfortable to me, said the frog. It's not about being comfortable, said the cat. It's about doing the right thing. What do foxes sit on? Asked the frog. Foxes sit on boxes, said the cat. Foxes sit on boxes and fleas sit on peas. What do goats sit on? Asked the frog. Goats sit on coats, said the cat. Goats sit on coats, cows sit on ploughs, and storks sit on forks. What do gorillas sit on? Asked the frog. Gorillas sit on pillars, said the cat. Gorillas sit on pillars, rats sit on hats, weasels sit on easels, and moles sit on poles. What do seals sit on? Asked the frog. Don't you know anything? Said the cat. Seals sit on wheels, doves sit on gloves, newts sit on flutes, lizards sit on wizards, and apes sit on grapes. What about puffins? Asked the frog. Puffins sit on muffins, said the cat. Puffins sit on muffins, snakes sit on cakes, owls sit on towels, gibbons sit on ribbons, lambs sit on jams, bees sit on keys, and pumas sit on satsumas. Well, I never knew that, said the frog. Well, you do now, said the cat. What do dogs sit on? Asked the frog. I was hoping you weren't going to ask that, said the cat. Help! Hi, so today we are going to look at adjectives. We'll look at what they are, how they're used, we'll come up with a load, and we are going to use the story to help us. So this week's story is Oi, Frog. If you haven't watched it already, then I suggest that you go and watch it because there are some really useful pictures in there that will help to spark our imagination when it comes to adjectives. An adjective is a describing word. So an adjective tells us more about a noun. So a noun is a thing and an adjective tells us more about that thing. So if I were to use my number fan, what could you tell me about my number fan? Could you tell me any words that would describe it? It's small, it's yellow, it's rounded, it's twisty. Yeah, they do twist. Okay, what about if you were to tell me about an elephant? Would you use the same adjectives to describe an elephant as you did to describe my number fan? No, because they're totally different things. If we were talking about an elephant, we couldn't call it small. We might use the word huge or enormous or giant, because an elephant's a pretty big thing. We couldn't use yellow because it's not yellow, so we might say that it was grey or it was dirty. Elephants like a mud bath, so yeah, it might be dirty. We might say that it's clumpy or that it's heavy. They would be great adjectives to describe an elephant because they're things that are specific to an elephant. So adjectives are words that describe. They make our sentences better by adding more detail. So if we were writing a a story or a newspaper article or anything really, it gives the person reading it a bit more information so they can imagine in their head what we are imagining when we write it. So it makes it a little bit more interesting and gives a little bit more detail for the reader when we're writing. So adjectives describe. Let's see if we can come up with some adjectives to describe the frog in the story. He's green, he's little, he's cheeky, he's inquisitive. Inquisitive means he asks lots of questions, he's trying to find out. He's squished, yeah. Not all the way through, but at the end, yeah, he's squished. He's confused. Yeah, well done. He was confused. Is he big? Is he small? Is he tall or short? Or, yeah, I'd say he's quite small. I would say we could use that word. Or petite. That means little too, doesn't it? Okay. What about then if we were to describe the cat in the story? The cat is fluffy. Yes, the cat is fluffy and the frog wasn't, you're right. The cat is grumpy and bossy. Yes. The cat is controlling. Yes, likes to be in control, doesn't she? She's clever. She's articulate. That's a good word, articulate. That means that she has a clear way of speaking, of being understood. Yeah. She has short legs. Yeah, she's only little. Okay, and what about the dog? Yeah, from the point of view of the frog, the dog is big and heavy. He's got floppy ears. Yeah, he's brown and white. Brilliant. So we can use colours, we can use characteristics, and that includes the things that they look like, but also the things that they behave, the way that they behave as well. All of those are adjectives and they describe. Let's see how many adjectives we can come up with in 30 seconds. See if you can create a list that is bigger than mine. I bet you can. So you've got 30 seconds. And all you have to do is write down as many adjectives, as many describing words as you can, but you only need the adjectives. Are you ready? Let's go. So remember, you could use colours if you wanted to, because you could talk about the size of things. You can talk about what they are like. Keep some of those animals in mind in the story, because I think that, like the ants, there's some good words to describe those, definitely. Right, our time is nearly up. Let's see if we can just get one more word down. Right, time is up. Okay, how many words did you manage to get? I got 9. I got 9 words in 30 seconds. Did you beat me? Yeah? Well done. If you didn't, then that's fine, but you can come back and play this, and you know I only get 9, so you can see if you can. My 9 are big, small, yellow, golden, cheeky, tiny, those ants, funny, green, round. Yes, we could have had tall, because the pillars that the gorillas sit on are tall. We could have had long, because the sofa that he wanted to sit on, that the gophers sat on, was long. We could have had sharp or spiky, because the forks that the storks sit on are sharp or spiky. We could have had smelly. Yes, we could have had smelly. We could have had cosy or warm, because the goats sat on coats and we could say that they were cosy or they were warm. You guys are getting really good at this. It's all well and good knowing that an adjective is a describing word, but if we can't use it in a sentence, it doesn't really matter. So adjectives come before the thing that they are describing. Not always, but if we're going to use them well, then they come before the noun, before the thing. So I might say the tiny ants, they weren't ants at all, were they? They were fleas, because they sat on peas. I remember. I might say the tiny ants sat on green peas. I did it again, didn't I? I referred to them as ants. I'm going to stop using those as an example. Or I might say the furry puma sat on a satsuma. Or I might say the heavy dog squished the frog. Oh, I might say that he squished the cheeky frog. I can make it better, can't I? So let's use some examples from the story, because I think that makes it a bit easier. Or we can use a different example if we want to, but let's see if we can come up with the two nouns in our story, let's see if we can describe each of them with one adjective. So I am going to start with the goats, and I think that the goats are hairy. So I'm going to use the word hairy. The hairy goats sat on cozy coats. Yeah, exactly. So in my sentence there, look, here is my noun, the word goats, and here is my adjective. This is my describing word, hairy. The hairy goats sat on cozy coats. The coats were cozy, cozy coats. Okay, what about if I were to talk about the gophers? Gophers. I think that the gophers are, brown. I think that they're cheeky. I think gophers might be cheeky. So I could write, the cheeky gophers sat on long or wide sofas. Yeah, well done. I wonder what happens then if we want to say more than one thing about the gophers or the sofa. Do you think we can use more than one adjective? Yes, of course we can. We can add more detail by using more than one adjective before our noun. But if we do that, then we have to separate them with a comma. So we might say the cheeky, comma, inquisitive frog asks lots of good questions. So I only used one adjective before my last noun. So the noun questions only has the word good in front of it, but this one has two, cheeky and inquisitive. But rather than saying the cheeky and inquisitive, I can put a comma in between them and separate them like that. The cheeky, inquisitive frog asks lots of good questions. Let's see if you can do that. I'm going to write another sentence that may or may not be riddled with mistakes, and we'll see if we can work out where the mistakes are. You see if you can help me to punctuate my sentence far better than I can do by myself. You have a go at writing me a sentence that's got multiple adjectives in it too. See if you can put them before the noun. I'd be super impressed if you could do that. Okay. Ready for mine? The naughty and bossy cat has long, scratchy whiskers. Oh. I do this all the time. I'm not very good, am I? We need a capital letter at the beginning of the sentence, don't we? And the end punctuation's wrong too. Do you know what? You're right. I put an exclamation, but it's not an exclamation at all. It's just a statement, so it just needs a full stop. There are more mistakes. Do you know what? I think you might be right. The naughty and bossy cat. I don't need the word and, do I? Oh dear. I can just use a comma. I can get rid of the word and I can just use a comma. So the naughty bossy cat has long scratchy whiskers. But I need a comma after the word long as well. Does this look a bit better? The naughty bossy cat has long scratchy whiskers. Absolutely. And if I wanted to join more onto the end of that, then I absolutely could. I could use a conjunction and I could join something onto the end of it. I tell you what, this is a tricky business, isn't it? So adjectives, describe. I am going to write 3 adjectives and 3 nouns, and we are going to see if we can work out which ones are adjectives and which ones are nouns. Okay, so I've got 3 adjectives and 3 nouns, and we will see if we can work out which ones are which. Okay, here we go. Moose, hairy, swan, hard, table, elegant. I almost think that they go together, look. So, let's see if we can pick out the nouns first. Nouns, things that we can see, touch, feel. Right, so we've got moose, swan, and table, which means that our adjectives are hairy, hard and elegant. Which one of my nouns do you think is hairy? Yeah, the moose. Hairy moose. Join those two together. Which one do you think is hard? Yeah, absolutely, the table. And then we've got an elegant swan. Very beautiful, elegant swan. Nice job. Okay. So an adjective is a word that describes. If we use to before our noun in our sentence, we need a comma to separate them. You did a super job today. See if you can practice and see if you can include more adjectives in your sentences when you write, particularly before those nouns. Whatever you do with the rest of your day, have a great one. Bye-bye. Hi. So today we are going to have a go at adding 3 one-digit numbers together. Now, as always, when it comes to adding, there are multiple different ways that we could do this, and we will explore lots of those different ways that we could have a go at doing this over the space of the video. Let's remember that this sign here is the one that means add. We could also say, we could say add, we could say addition, we could say sum, we could say total, we could say count on. All of those would mean the same thing. There are lots of different words for the same sign. The other sign that it will be important for us to remember is this one here, and this one means equals, or equal is the same as whatever is on this side is the same as whatever is on this side. And if we remember it like that, then it makes it a bit easier to understand. So it just means is the same as. So we know that to add basically means that we have these and we put them together to make a total. But today what we're going to look at doing is adding 3 numbers together. We're going to stick with one-digit numbers for now. So we are looking at numbers between 1 and 9, and we will have a go at multiple different ways that we could add them together. So if I am going to do, let's start with this first. So my number sentence says 1, add 5 equals. Now, I can do this mentally because I know that this here is the same as 10. I know that 5 add 5 makes 10. So I'm going to do 10 add 1. And that equals 11. So I could go about it by looking for number bonds to 10 and working with those and using some of my mental math strategies. But effectively what I'm doing there is breaking it into sections, and that's the easiest way to do it. So if I want to do this, I've got 8 add 4 add 3 equals. Now, there are various different ways that I could do this. There's no number bond there in the 3 numbers that I have, but there is a close number bond that I could do if I wanted to do it mentally. And I'll break it down and I'll show you exactly what I could do in my head if I wanted to. So what I could do is I could break my 3 into 2 and 1, and I could do 8 add 2, which I know to be 10. And then I still need the 1 because there was 1 left there. So I've got 1 and I've got 4. So what I would do then is in my head, I would have that number bond that I had, and I would have this other section. So this one here, 8 add 2, that gave me 10. I knew that. That's what I was looking for. And then 1 add 4, I know gives me 5. So then I've got 10 add 5, which gives me 15. So I could write 15 in on the other side of my equal sign. So I could look for a number bond or a close number bond. I equally could have done it here. So I could have done 8 add 2 add 2 add 3. And then I still would have had exactly the same. I would have had my number bond to 10, and then I would have had the 2 left from the 4, and the 3 and 2 and 4 would equal 5. And then I add the 10 and the 5 together and I get 15. So I could do it that way round. Now, we could also use an empty number line. Before we use the empty number line, let's just look at that number sentence exactly as it was, as if we were just counting on and then counting on again. So we could look for number ones to 10, or we could do what we were about to do, either with the written method of the empty number line or with the mental method of just counting on. So let's just have a look. So if we'd got 5 add 4 add 3 equals, then if I was just doing this mentally, what I would do is I would do 5 add 4. So there's my 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. And then I would do 9 add 3. So 9, 10, 11, 12. So either I can add the first two numbers and then from the answer of that, add the third number on. And I can either do that in my head, or I can do that using an empty number line, which is what I'm about to show you next. So if we're using an empty number line, then it is as simple as a line that goes across the page, and we put the starting number on the left hand side of that line. So let's do 4 add 2 add 3. So I'm going to put 4 at the left hand side of my number line here, and then I'm going to do 2 jumps, and then I'm going to do 3 jumps. So I'm going to add 2 like that. So 4, 5, 6 underneath there, and then 3, 1, 2, 3, and then from 6, 7, 8, 9. So I would have 9 there, and I would also put 9 in up there as well. Now, in actual fact, when it comes to using an empty number line, what I can do is I can cheat somewhat, because I can use an empty number line and not have to do it in 2 parts. So if I do 7 add 5 add 3, which would be a really easy one to do if I was spotting number ones to 10. So 7, and then I'm adding 5. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm adding 3, 1, 2, 3. And then what I'll do is I'll come back to my 7 and I'll just count on to the end. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if I'm using my empty number line, I can be somewhat smart in the way that I do it, in that I can do the jumps, 5 jumps, and then 3 jumps, and then I can just use it as one big number line for counting on. I can do it in blocks if I would prefer to. That's absolutely fine, but I don't necessarily have to. The beauty always of using an empty number line is that we can see where we've gone wrong, and so in that respect, sometimes it is easier to do it in the 2 sections, but we don't necessarily need to. And what this also means is that when we're breaking through like a tens barrier, so here we went from 7 to 15, but when we went past the 10, it was relatively easy to do because we were just counting in ones. So that would be the same at any point. So let's do one more example of this, and we'll do it together, and you can do it with me, and then we'll have a look at another way that we could add 3 or more numbers together. And again, that's the same with this. We could add more than 3 numbers together using an empty number line quite simply in exactly the same way. And I'll show you another method that we could use as well. But this one's a really good one for understanding exactly what it is that is happening when we're adding those numbers together. So this time we'll start with 9, and we'll add 5, and we'll add 9. So quite a big one this time. So I've got my empty number line, got my number sentence here, I've got my empty number line, and 9 is here. So I know I have to add on 5, so I'm going to do 5 jumps first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now remember, when you're doing those jumps, it's important that they're big enough that you can get either a finger or a pencil into them, and they come down to the line so that they're separated and we can see exactly where they are. That way we know exactly how many there are, and if we've made a mistake, it's easy to tell. So we added on 5, and now we're going to add on another 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then all we do here is start at 9 and we count up. So count up in ones: 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And I think I've missed one out. Let me double check. Yeah, I can see the one that I missed. So not all of my dots were perfect, but I can see the dots. And if I just put the dots in for the ones where I did it, but it wasn't quite right, then, or it wasn't quite in the middle, then you'll see that there's one that I missed out. Can you see this one here? Look, it has no dot in it. So all of these ones had a dot. Some of them were sat on the line because it's really difficult to coordinate like this. But there's one here that doesn't have one in. So actually I said 23, but it's not, it's one more than that. It's 24. And in that case, maybe when I was doing it, it would have been easier to do the 5 and then to do the 9. I don't know. But there are other ways that I could have done that mentally as well, because I know that double 9 is 18. So I could have used that and then just added the 5 onto it. So there are lots of different ways that you could do that. And then let's just have a look at one more way that we could add 3 numbers together, one more written method that we could use. Now, we're going to use the column method. And what is super important with this is that we always remember that the numbers are in the right column. So they sit perfectly one under each other. If we're doing single digit numbers, if they're all single digit numbers, then that's relatively straightforward because they will just sit on top of each other. So we might have 5, add 4, add 3. And so all we do here, look, is we just sit them on top of each other. So 5, add 4, add 3. And then we put a line underneath. And this line here is the same as our equals. Sometimes you might see it like this. So it is like a big equals sign. 5, add 4, add 3. And then like a big equal sign underneath that we put the answer in. Any of those is fine. But fundamentally, all I've done here is lay it out differently to how I laid it out when we very first started, and I had it written across the top. This is exactly the same thing, and in terms of a written method, it doesn't help me in the same way that my number line did. I still have to be able to add this and then add this onto it. So we have to be quite good at adding our digits together mentally. So for me, I know that 5 and 4 is 9, and then I'm going to count on 3 more. So I can do that: 9, 10, 11, 12. And when I do my answer has a 10. So I have to make sure that the 10 goes here beyond all of these, because these are ones digits. So my ones digit, my 2 goes here, but my 10 must go before it. That's quite important when it comes to that. So I can use column addition as a way of working out, like adding multiple numbers together, but my mental maths has to be good enough to be able to do that. So I have to practice lots and lots and lots and be able to add together lots of single digit numbers before I can do that. If I'm still at a stage where I'm practicing that, then the best way to do that is to use an empty number line, or to practice your mental maths and to get your number bond spotting and things like that like really hot first. And then you'll find it much easier to be able to do that. That's more a written way of doing what we did when we very first started at the beginning of the video, with multiple numbers, adding them together mentally. All that does is sort of write them down in a different way. It doesn't really help as a method of doing it. But we could add in any amount of numbers and we could do it in exactly the same way. Either we can add them together mentally by adding 2 and then adding the next number on, or we can add them together mentally by looking for number bonds to 10 and breaking it down that way. But make sure that if you've got 8 add 3, then you break it into 8 add 2 add 1, because you know that 8 add 2 is 10, but there's still one more in that 3. Or we could do it using an empty number line and then the jumps help us to know where we're at. Or we could do it using columns, making sure that our digits are underneath each other neatly. Any way would work. I think you've done a really good job today. Whatever you do with the rest of your day, have a great one. Bye-bye. Hi, so today we are going to be having a look at shadows. Now, a shadow is formed when an opaque object, so something that you can't see through, blocks the way of a light source. So if we have a look at this picture here, the light source here is the lamp and the object here is the ball, and we can see the shadow just the other side of it. It's a similar shape to the object and it is beyond the object. So the object is in between the light source and the shadow. What happens is the light is trying to shine down onto the surface, down onto the ground, and in this case the ball, but the object gets in the way, gets in between. So the light bounces back off the object, and on the ground we have, or on the surface, because this is going to happen on a wall as well, on the surface we have a shadow. A shadow is formed. So if we look at this, then we can tell that this is the shadow of, a hand. This is the shadow of a hand, because the shadow of a shape is generally a fairly similar shape to the thing that it started with. So the object and the shadow are very similar shapes, but a shadow is an outline. It doesn't have tons of detail, and it's often darker than the original picture. So generally you see shadows represented as black and white. So on this picture here, there are various different animals and there are various different shadows. So in the story this week, in the story Oi Frog, there were loads of different animals. So here's a selection of a few and their shadows. So which animals match up with which shadows? So we've got a cat, an elephant, a duck, a dog, a giraffe and a pig. Now, they're obviously not size relative. So a bigger thing would have a bigger shadow because the object itself is bigger. But I couldn't fit them all on the page and make it nice and clear doing that. So for this, it is literally just the shape that we're looking for. Do you think you know which one's a which? Let's have a nosy then. There we go. So the cat was quite clear because the cat had little pointy ears and paws and a tail. And it had a different head shape to the dog. So the dog and the cat are the only two that I think you possibly could have mixed up, but the head shape was quite different. The dog had a rounded head with a snout and the cat didn't, but they did both have tails that looked similar, so maybe you might have got confused there. Pig shadow, he's got a little tail and a snouty nose. The giraffe is tall, it has long legs, it has a long neck, quite clearly a giraffe. The duck has feathers and webbed feet and a bill. See all of those details. And the elephant obviously has a trunk and tusks. If you were to have a look at other things, what do you think you would find a shadow for? Trees, cars, buildings, boats. Ooh, that's an interesting one. People. Yeah, people have shadows. Can you think of some things that might not have a shadow? Yeah, if there was a statue that was made out of glass, then you wouldn't have a stronger shadow because glass isn't opaque. So opaque means that the light doesn't get through it, it bounces back off it, and glass obviously isn't that. So if I have my bottle here, then you can sort of see a shadow on the wall behind me just here. It's not a beautifully shaped shadow, but you can see the darkness in the item. If I move it further back, you can see my shadow moving behind it, and the size of the shadow changes dependent on where the light source is. So if we have a look at this picture here is a tree, and it is over the space of a whole day, because what it is important to remember is that in this case the sun is the source of light, and the sun is moving across the sky throughout the day. It's not the sun that's moving, actually, it's the earth spins round and round on its axis, but the effect is that the sun rises in one place, travels across the sky and sets on the other side. And the impact that has on the shadows is that the shadows change throughout the day. So at midday, when the sun is directly above the tree doesn't have much of a shadow at all. You can just see like a round patch around the bottom, can't you? Whereas when the sun is on its way up, you can see quite a long, tall shadow, and then it gets a little bit smaller as the sun gets higher. And I wonder what would happen to that shadow, do you think, when the sun comes back down the other side and is starting to set?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We would get the same thing in reverse. So the shadows would be on the opposite side of the tree, because the shadow is always on the opposite side to the light source. So if the light source is on the other side of the sky because the sun is setting, then the shadow will be on the opposite side of the tree. And the same thing will happen as it gets lower, so the shadow will get bigger. It will change position throughout the day. I wonder, that tree looks like a deciduous tree to me. That tree looks like it will lose its leaves in the winter. Do you think that the shadow of that tree will be the same all year round? No, I don't think it will. I think that the shadow of that tree will be different throughout the year, because a big part of what blocks out the light that the light bounces off is definitely the trunk of the tree, but also the branches, and then the leaves that cover those branches are also all blocking out the light and forming a shadow. So that tree in the winter will be a very different shape, and it won't have anywhere near as much coverage because it won't have as many leaves on. So you won't get such a clear-cut shadow in the winter as you have in the summer, even though the sun can still shine and you can still get shadows any time of year. Even if it's cold, sometimes the sun shines, and it's only the sun shining as a light source that we need in order to get the shadow. So here is a picture, and this is saying that when the sun is nearly overhead, the shadow will be really short, and then the larger the angle between the light source and the ground, the longer the shadow will be. So if you went outside with your toys are a good one to do, because you can draw around toys much easier than you can draw around yourself. But either you could go out with a friend and you could make sure it's a sunny day so that you've got a good light source, or you can do this as an inside experiment and you can use a torch or a light, and you'll find your shadow and you draw around it and then go back throughout the day, an hour apart or a couple of hours apart, and do exactly the same thing. Stand in the same place and see where your shadow is, and you'll see that it moves throughout the day. And you can do this as a similar experiment, but inside, by if I were to use my gingerbread man. He's probably not the best example, but I don't have like a little figure type toy, like a toy dinosaur or something like that would be brilliant for this. Or I could use my bottle. It might not be as fun, but it would give you the same result. And then what you do is you get a torch, so put a piece of something behind it, or you can do it on like pavement or concrete that you can draw on with chalk. And then, because remember, it's behind it that the shadow is going to be, and then you can change your light source. So you can use a torch and you can hold it here and you can see whether or not you have any shadow, and you can get higher and higher and higher and higher, and then you can move it around the outside and you can see the change that will happen with it. And then the other thing that you can do, which I think is really interesting, is you can start so that your light source is quite close, and then you can move it further and further and further away and see what happens to that shadow. Now, you could do this and you could play around with shadow without doing any drawing or recording. You could just have a play and you could observe. That would absolutely work too. If you do manage to set up a torch, then or a light source, you could do it with a lamp, then you could also use your shadows for fun. So here are some pictures of people making what we call hand puppets. So their hands are the things that are blocking the light source, and the white hands that you can see in the picture, in the diagram, are the way that the hands have to be. So what you have to do with your hands in front of the source of light. And then if you do it so that it's shining onto so that there's a wall in between you and the light source, then you will get the shadow version, the black version of the hands behind you. So you can see that they've made like a parrot and a stag and a butterfly. And you can do that. You can make various different animals and put on little shows with your hands, because your hands will block out the light. So the light will reflect off your hands, and there will be a shadow left on the surface that is behind you. Shadow theatres work in a really similar way in that the light source comes from behind, and then the puppets are in between a screen and the light source. So if you have a look at this picture here, then you can see that the puppets are probably little cardboard cutouts, and the light source comes from behind, and then there's like a screen behind in the front, and the puppet will be in between, and then what the person watching sees is the shadows on the screen. So you could make that screen out of anything. You could do it out of paper as long as it's relatively thin and transparent, and you could put on a little show in doing that. So either you can make puppets, or you can use your hands as puppets. Remember that if you're making, your hands make good puppets because they are opaque, because they will block out the light well. So if you're making puppets, then you need to make sure that they will do the same thing. So they need to not be see-through. You might need to use cardboard rather than paper if you want to create a really good dark shadow that can be seen well. I hope you play around with shadows. I think it's good fun, and I think that you should explore. But whatever you choose to do the rest of your day, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Hello Angel students. Today we are going to be talking about the importance of a plan and purpose, and the discipline that emotional well-being needs to come into that to help that. Sometimes it may feel really normal to be unsure about exactly what you want to do, thinking, what is my purpose? What do I want to do? Where do I start with a plan? And that's perfectly okay. And as I've said, it's quite normal for most people. So if you're unsure, keep listening, and we're going to help with tips and tricks to help you become sure, so that you know exactly what you would like to do and how to get there. One of the first steps is to consider exploring. The more that you explore different things, the more that you read up and research and try different things, are the more options that will be open to you, and you will know how you feel about those things. Because in doing so, you will figure out the things that you like, the things that you love, the things that you are passionate about, which will in general give you a more fulfilling life. So let's explore how you can find your purpose, fulfill it with discipline and emotional health. So let's explore how you can find your purpose, accomplish your goals, and do so through discipline and good emotional health practices. So first of all, maybe let's specify what I mean when I say discipline, because you might have one way of understanding it, but in this context and in this lesson, what I mean when I say discipline is the ability to control your actions as well as your behaviors, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's kind of like when you've got work to do or a chore to do. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but because you know that it is your responsibility, you will get it done. And when you get it done, you usually feel like, oh, it wasn't that bad anyway. So, it was easy work, light work. And that's what I mean with this. And the more and more that you practice it, is the less and less that you actually have to feel as if you need to implement or put in discipline, because it will come natural. And as you find the things that you like and you love and you explore more and more, it will become something that you find fun, trust me. Because what you'll find is, if you start and you build up a really good routine and you get into certain things, and then you just stop one day because you don't feel like doing it, it will feel even more difficult to get back into that rhythm and get back that momentum and that desire and that passion to want to start again. So if you just decide, I'm going to start in small little bits, you're just going to have small goals, bite-sized goals, then you can add on to them and do more and more and more. And with that, you'll get excited, you'll get happy, you'll feel accomplished, you'll feel like you gave your word to something, you followed through, and that will bring about a really good feeling. Another way that I think about this is, I'm sure you can think of a time maybe when somebody said they were going to do something for you, or they promised you would go somewhere, or even if it was something like, we'll go and get an ice cream, or we'll go to your favorite place to go and get something to eat. and that time comes and it doesn't happen for whatever reason, and you feel disappointed because that person was unable to keep their promise to you. You may feel disappointed because that person was unable to keep their promise to you. So imagine then what happens internally that you may not really be aware of, because it won't necessarily feel the same in terms of disappointment, but it is the same that goes on with your body and the chemical reactions and the muscle memory. Remember, in previous lessons, we've spoken about muscle memory. What happens is when you make a promise to yourself, or when you give your word to yourself that I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and then the time comes and you don't do it for whatever reason, that muscle memory remembers that. So it's the same type of disappointment, but it doesn't necessarily feel the same. So you can't really hold somebody and say, well, you said and you didn't do it. If you make a promise to yourself, there is no one more important than you that you should keep that promise to. So how do we identify our purpose and therefore make a plan to stay disciplined to and involve emotional wellness in that as well? First of all, as I've mentioned, explore different things, try different things, anything. It doesn't matter who is doing it, who isn't doing it, who thinks it's a good thing, who doesn't think it's a good thing. What do you think about it? Why do you want to try it? And with everything, have a reason, have your own argument, have your own reasoning. Let's say you wanted to try something, okay? And whoever is in charge, the adult in charge that you might need to get permission from to try this new thing, doesn't think it's a good idea. What I would suggest is that you come up with some reasons. You really research and look within yourself and ask yourself, why do I really want to try this? Why is this something that I want to explore? And you come up with your own, it's like a lawyer. Imagine a lawyer, okay? When they are before the judge, so let's imagine that the adult is the judge. When you're in front of the judge as the lawyer, you have to argue your case. So you have all these different points as to why you should win this case. That is something I would love you to consider doing, so that you know exactly why this is something I want to explore. You know this is exactly why you want to try this specific thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It has to feel right for you. It has to feel exciting for you. It might even feel nerve-wracking. You might feel nervous about trying it, but it's good. That's even better, because that means you're willing to try brand new things despite how you feel. And when we're too comfortable, we're not really willing to try things that make us uncomfortable. But the trick to getting ahead is usually being willing to be uncomfortable until you get comfortable. Next, I would say identify your strengths. What are you good at? What are you naturally good at? Sometimes we don't even realize what we're naturally good at. I'll give you an example. Take me, for instance. I was always the one that close friends and family, and sometimes people I didn't really know that well, but they would talk to me. They would confide in me, they would share things with me, and they would really appreciate my advice. They would appreciate me listening. They would appreciate the compassion and the time that I took to listen and give them some advice with whatever it was that they were going through. And it wasn't until years later that I really found that that was a strength I have. That was something that not only was I strong in, but I actually enjoyed it. I felt good about it. It felt good for me to do. It felt like a way of giving back. It felt like love for other people, as well as making me feel as if I could make a difference in somebody's lives. So there are things that you may automatically do. It's just a part of you. It just rings true within you. And that is a key thing. Where your natural strengths lie, usually where your natural gifts and abilities are also. So hone in and really think about what feels true for you. What feels good when you do it? Because I always encourage that we follow the good feelings, we follow the good thoughts. Those are where all the gems are. You know, like they say, the money pot at the end of the rainbow. If you follow all the good thoughts and you follow all the good feelings, you are bound to come upon that money pot. So that's one of the key things. One of my favorite points, as a matter of fact, would be to look at what strengths you have. And if you haven't already, please make a list of everything you are good at, everything you are strong at, all of the things that you are strong in, because those things mean that you can build on them. You can get even stronger on them. Anywhere where you can improve it to the max and be 100% at the top of your game in that and master it. That would be one of my favorite points of this. And leading on from that, as I've mentioned a little bit in that point, would be to listen. And when I say listen, I mean listen to you. Listen to yourself. Listen to your inner voice. We all have one. Have you ever had a moment where something's happened, okay, and you say, I knew that was going to happen? Or maybe someone asks a question and you know the answer, but for whatever reason you don't answer, you don't say anything, and then the question is answered by somebody else, and inside you're saying, I knew that was the answer. That's the voice I'm talking about. So listen to that voice, get friendly with that voice, begin to trust that voice, so that whenever you hear it, you know that's part of the good feeling, that's part of the good thoughts, and those are the ones we want to follow. And that's what we call our intuition. And we are very gifted to be able to be in tune with our intuition, okay? Intuition. They're very closely linked. So do listen to that, because that inner voice will help to guide you if you learn to build up a very, very strong relationship with it in terms of trust. Because what gives you a sense of happiness and fulfillment, that is exactly where your purpose lies. And that leads me to one of my favorite parts, of course, which is the emotional health and well-being practices. I'm going to give you 3 that will help in terms of planning, disciplining, and helping you reach and accomplish your purpose goals. So the first one, self-care. Take great care of yourself. In previous lessons, you'll find I've gone into more detail where I speak about how you eat and what you eat. So eat as healthily as you can. Have a cheat now and again. I like some cake. I actually love crisps. So eat as healthy as you possibly can. Drink lots of water. Feed your body everything it needs. And I guarantee you, it will look after you in return. You want all of those answers. You want to be clear about what it is you should be doing. You want to be able to listen to your intuition. So you need to feed yourself all the things that will help you be the best you that you can be. Sleep. Get to sleep, get enough sleep. Allow this wonderful machine that takes care of you and does everything you need it to do without you having to tell it. You don't have to tell your body to do anything. So the least you can do is give it adequate rest so it can perform in optimum, peak, best performance for you. You want your body to be able to function. You want your mind to be clear. You don't want to be tired and lethargic and moody. You don't want any of that. And food with the right sleep means that you don't have any of that. And food with the right sleep is the perfect combination to be as clear as you possibly could, okay? And last but not least, move around. I don't care if you want to dance, if you want to just move your hips, if you want to just get your arms going, move around, exercise, go for walks. If you have a dog, offer to take the dog for a walk. If you don't have a dog, do things around the house. Throw on a YouTube video, march around the house for, knees to chest for 3 minutes. It doesn't matter what it is, but get your body moving. Move all the time. Again, our machine needs oiling sometimes. And the best way to oil it, not literally, is to move it. It will appreciate it. And again, anything you do for yourself by taking care of yourself through self-care, you will reap the benefits. Only you will know what you're doing. Only you have to know what you're doing, so you will understand what blessings will come from doing that. Next is healthy ways to manage your emotions. Please do have a look at some of our previous lessons where I have done meditations. I recommend meditation and breathing exercises because they work. They really work. When you are aware of your breath, it can keep you in the present moment. And anytime your mind wanders off, which it may, and that's okay, it's absolutely normal, it's absolutely fine, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that you realize what's happening and you bring it back to your breath. So breathing exercises and meditation will help you to do that. As I've said, please do have a look at some of the previous videos where we have videos dedicated to breathing exercises and meditation. Otherwise, feel free to have a look at other methods and options of breathing exercises and meditations. There are many out there. It is not a one size fits all. You do what feels comfortable, and again, we listen to our intuition and what feels right for us. And my last one is who you surround yourself with. Surround yourself with people who support you, who love you, who speak life into you, who speak love over your life. And most importantly, be one of those people for yourself. Be your biggest supporter. Speak life over yourself. Speak love into yourself. Affirmations. Again, we have a lot of affirmations on this channel. Have a look at previous lessons where I have given affirmations. They are very powerful. Very, very powerful. And from them, you can pick some for you specifically. Anything, again, that rings true for you, please do use them consistently. Be disciplined with them. Say them, make a practice of saying them first thing in the morning when you wake up, and when you're in bed and ready to go to sleep, say them again. It may feel at first as if it's difficult to believe, but if you consistently do it and you are disciplined with it and you remain practicing them twice a day, or however many times a day you want to, there is no limit. There is no limit ever. Do not put any limits on yourself. You can say them as many times as you want, because eventually you will know. You won't only believe them, but you will know. All right? So I just want to finish with a little story. So there was a young boy, and he knew he really wanted to dance. He knew he wanted to dance, and he knew he was good at dancing. But what particular style, he wasn't so sure. So he shared this with his family, and they decided, well, he seems pretty dedicated. He's always dancing around the house anyway. So we may as well put that energy into something really good and see what talent can come of it. So they tried all different styles of dancing. They tried tap, they tried hip hop, they tried contemporary, all style. And would you believe the one that he was the best was ballet? Everybody was very surprised. They were shocked. They couldn't believe it, but it was a beautiful and very disciplined form of dance. So he knew that it was going to be difficult, and also that there weren't many boys that did ballet. But once he found out that some of the training that had to be done to be a ballet dancer was also the same training that footballers had to do, he was all in and he was ready to go. And what happened was he used all of his time, he put all of his might into practicing, and ended up getting into one of the best training schools for ballet. And not only the best training schools for ballet, but he also performed on one of the top stages for ballet. Nobody could believe it. It was amazing. And it was amazing because of all the different dance style forms they had tried previous. To know that he got to perform on one of the top stages, and having gotten to one of the top stages, I mean, tickets for this thing were insane. Hundreds of pounds to be able to go and watch a show. And one of the shows was very popular around Christmas time. I believe they call it the Nutcracker. And so he got chosen for a very, very special part. And that part requires you to jump very high. Not only did he get chosen for that part, but the director that directs the entire show said that he's one of the best and the highest jumping performers ever. profile. And you want to hear the best part? The actual best part of that is that he accomplished all of this before the age of 15 and has gone on to have an amazing, wonderful, prosperous, very, very fulfilling career in ballet. And I tell you that story, true story as well. I tell you that story because, as I mentioned earlier, by trying different things, it's very clear what you're perhaps not so great at and what you are incredible at. And when you find what you're incredible at and you feel that within inside yourself and you decide you're going to follow that and you're going to put in the work and you're going to be disciplined, what will happen can be miraculous. It can be life-changing. So, in conclusion, I encourage you to identify your strengths, write them down, and read them regularly. Trust your inner voice. Build a super duper relationship first with yourself and with others around you so that you have the right people around you to encourage you and support your journey. It's a very personal journey, but you can still share it with those that are close to you. Take care of yourself by practicing self-care. It is something that you must, again, be disciplined with, and it's something that you must enjoy. There are so many different ways that you can practice self-care. So the 3 that I have given you, start with those. And once you get disciplined with those, you can add more. Okay, remember that we have lots of lessons where I've spoken about meditation and breath work. So achieving your goals is possible. It's very, very possible. Just be patient with yourself and be gentle with yourself. Be dedicated to this journey. So keep exploring, be curious, enjoy the exploring stage as you work towards your dreams. I believe in you, Angel students, and thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, here's a video for Angel School. Following practice some joint exercise first. Before you do Kung Fu, you always make sure when you do exercise, always make sure you do some exercise for the joints so your body can perform it better and preventing injuries. Change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knees. 1, 2, 3, change. 1, 2, 3, change. 1, 2, 3. Keep your foot point straight. Relax your hips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep your elbow arm, hands reach out far as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Body elbow look back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Arm straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shoulders down, head up, neck, slowly. 1, 2, 3, change. 1, 2, 3. Body and shoulders, full circle. 1, 2, 3, change. 1, 2, 3. Relax your back. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 3, 7. Okay, good. As you knee strike, 100. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, Okay, now we can do 10 push-ups together. Okay, body straight, arm straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Let's practice one basic punch, 2 foot wide. Keep your foot point straight, clench your fist. L1 punch, 1. Slowly. 2, feel the movement. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, let the power. 1, L1 punch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Exactly same. Slightly foot a little bit wider. Earlier we did 2 foot wide. And now we do 3.5. 1 more foot. And a little bit more. Bend your knees. Same. 10 slowly. 1. Bend your knee to feel your leg a little bit shaking. When you feel a little bit pain on your thigh, that's okay. 2. Feel the movement. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10, little bit power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Second one, marble change to gumbo. Cross your hands. First kung fu stone. Change to second one leg bent, one leg straight. Slowly, marble, 2, gumbo, 1, marble, 2, gumbo, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A little bit sharp. Block. We punch. Breathing up, breathing in, and breathing up. 1. Breathing in, breathing up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Inhale and exhale. And let's practice the 5 breathing exercise. Start 2 foot wide. Foot point straight. Shoulders down, arms straight, fingers straight. Turn your hands. Breathing in, hands up. Breathing in through your nose. Collecting all the good energy into your body. Breathing out. Release the tension from your body. Whole body relax. And 4 more times. Breathing in through your nose. And breathing out through your nose. Breathing in. Yeah. 2 more. So this movement you can practice a little bit more by yourself. Basic punching technique and basic punch with standing, lower stance, and change side to side. And you can do 10 times every day. Okay? Let's finish here.
Please like and subscribe so you can get more and more lessons.